Hello to all our viewers. Thank you for tuning into our platform where we bring you comprehensive, impactful, and reliable news from across the globe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest stories shaping our world. Today, we take you to Mozambique, where post-election protests have tragically claimed the lives of many, including children. Let's dive into the details of this heartbreaking and evolving situation. Mozambique in turmoil, the tragic loss of young lives in pot-banging protests. In a poignant reflection of Mozambique's current political and social crisis, Antonio Joaquim, a 16-year-old boy full of life and hope, became one of the youngest victims of violence during opposition-organized protests. These protests erupted following last month's contentious presidential election, which many claim was marred by fraud. Antonio was shot dead while banging pots and pans, a symbolic act of resistance that has reverberated across the country. Manuel Samuel, Antonio's uncle, vividly described the tragedy. Antonio was shot in the mouth, and the bullet went through the back of his head, he told the BBC. CCTV footage from local shops reportedly shows police officers firing live ammunition at protesters, further fueling outrage over the government's handling of dissent. This young boy's death has become a painful reminder of the volatile political climate in Mozambique, a country governed by the Frelimo party since independence nearly 5 decades ago. The controversial election. The turmoil began after the Electoral Commission declared Frelimo's presidential candidate, Daniel Chapo, the winner with an overwhelming 71% of the vote. His closest rival, Venancio Mondlane, received just 20%. Mondlane, an evangelical pastor and former member of the opposition Frelimo party, rejected the results, alleging widespread electoral fraud. Fleeing the country in fear of arrest, Mondlane has continued to mobilize his supporters via social media. He called for nightly protests, urging citizens to bang pots and pans at 9 p.m. as a sign of defiance against the election results. On the first night of protests, November 15th, the streets of Maputo were filled with the deafening sounds of clanging metal. Manuel Samuel recalled the atmosphere of that night. It was as though a new Mozambique was being born. However, the hope for change quickly turned to despair. The protests ended in bloodshed, with police reportedly using excessive force to quell dissent. Antonio was among the first to be killed, sparking a wave of fear and anger that has since spread across the nation. A growing toll on young lives. Human Rights Watch has reported that at least 40 people, including 10 children, have been killed during the protests. The images from Antonio's funeral, where his friends planted flowers on his grave and burst colorful balloons as a tribute, highlight the heartbreaking reality of the situation. At the morgue, I counted 6 bodies of young children, Manuel Samuel said. They are killing us and our future. Antonio's friend delivered a moving eulogy on behalf of his grieving mother, saying, "You were so full of life and hope. Now you are a victim of a bullet." Another victim, 20-year-old Alito Mohamed, was also allegedly killed by police. His friends held a night vigil for him, laying out a Mozambican flag and lighting candles in his honor. Photos of Alito with a gunshot wound to the back of his head have circulated widely, further galvanizing the protest movement. Police response and public outrage. Mozambique's police commander, Bernardino Rafael, expressed sympathy for the families of those killed but placed the blame squarely on Mondlane's supporters. They are using children as shields in front of them while they remain behind, he alleged during a BBC interview. Rafael also claimed that protesters had killed 6 officers, looted property, and burned vehicles, forcing the police to act in self-defense. He reported 103 injuries, including 69 among law enforcement officers. However, critics have accused the police of acting as enforcers for the ruling party, suppressing dissent with brutal force. Albino Fokilha, leader of the Optimist Party for the Development of Mozambique, condemned the excessive violence, stating, "It feels as though they are being used to protect the ruling party." The voice of Mozambique's youth. The protests have laid bare the growing disillusionment among Mozambique's youth, many of whom feel excluded from the nation's economic and political future. Boris Nhema, an analyst at South Africa's Institute for Security Studies, noted, "They don't care about who brought independence. The independence they want is their financial independence." Young people in Mozambique are desperate for jobs, vocational training, affordable housing, and a stable future. For many, the protests are not just about the election, they are a cry for help in a country where opportunity remains out of reach. A nation in mourning. In addition to nightly pot banging, Mondlane supporters have observed a 3-day mourning period, marked by vehicle hooting at noon to honor the victims. The streets of Maputo echo with the sounds of grief and defiance, as citizens grapple with the tragic loss of life and the uncertain road ahead. The future of Mozambique's democracy. While Daniel Chapo has maintained a low profile since his controversial victory, he insists that Frelimo's win was legitimate. "We are an organized party that prepares its victories," he said after the election results were announced. Meanwhile, Mozambique's courts are reviewing Mondlane's bid to annul the election, with a ruling expected in the coming weeks. The outcome could determine whether the protests escalate further or if the nation begins to yield. A call for justice. As Mozambique navigates one of its most turbulent periods in recent history, the demand for accountability and reform grows louder. The deaths of Antonio, Elito, and countless others have become a rallying cry for justice and change. To our wide Real News viewers, thank you for staying with us as we explore these critical stories. Don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth coverage of events shaping our world. Together, let's amplify the voices of those fighting for justice, democracy, and a brighter future.